He grabbed the soft flesh at her waist and squeezed it between his fingers like he was inspecting damaged goods. She flinched, not from pain, from the look in his eyes. Before pregnancy, you were a size 4. What are you now? 10? 12? Marcus, please. Please what? I am asking a simple question. You used to fit in my hands perfectly. Now look at you. I carried your child. I almost died bringing her into this world, and I appreciate that. But gratitude does not create attraction, Camille. When I look at you now, I feel nothing. This body, these stretch marks, this stomach, it does nothing for me. She stood there in the bathroom of their $30 million estate, wearing a nightgown that cost more than most people's rent, and she had never felt more worthless in her entire life. 7 months. It had been 7 months since she brought their daughter into the world, after 42 hours of labor that nearly killed her. 7 months since her heart stopped on that operating table for 30 seconds. 7 months since she fought her way back from the edge of death because she wanted to hold her baby. And this was her reward. A husband who looked at her like she was a stranger wearing his wife's face. But here is what Marcus did not know. While he was busy tearing her apart piece by piece, karma was already writing its own story. And karma, well, karma has a way of collecting its debts with interest. Have you ever loved someone so much that you forgot how to love yourself? Have you ever looked in the mirror and only heard someone else's voice telling you everything that was wrong with you? If you have, then this story is for you. And if you believe that people eventually get what they deserve, you are going to want to stay until the very end. Before we go any further, if you are new here, take a second to subscribe to Mr. David Love Stories. Trust me, you do not want to miss how this one ends. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell because the karma in this story, it's different. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because to truly understand how far Camille fell, you need to understand how high she once stood. 3 years before that moment in the bathroom, Camille was a rising star in the architecture world. 28 years old, brilliant, ambitious, and completely unaware that she was about to meet the man who would change everything. Marcus Hartwell was not just wealthy. He was the kind of wealthy that made other wealthy people feel inadequate. The youngest billionaire in the technology sector. His face was on magazine covers. His handshake could make or break empires, and his charm could melt glaciers. They met at a charity gala in Manhattan. Camille was there representing her architecture firm. Marcus was there because he owned the building the gala was being held in. He spotted her across the room, and something in his chest shifted. You designed the Westbrook Center, did you not? Camille turned to find the most beautiful man she had ever seen standing beside her, holding 2 glasses of champagne. I did. How did you know that? Because I make it my business to know brilliant people, and anyone who could design something that elegant while also being that functional is someone I want to know better. She laughed. Is that your opening line? Only when it is true. I am Marcus. I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are. Then you have the advantage. Tell me something about yourself that is not on your resume. I hate champagne. Marcus looked at the glass he had just handed her and smiled. Then let me get you something you actually want. That was the moment Camille should have run. Because a man who pays that much attention, who notices that quickly, who adjusts that smoothly, is either your soulmate or your destroyer. There is no in-between. For 2 years, Marcus was everything Camille had ever dreamed of. Attentive, generous, passionate. He flew her to Paris for their first anniversary. He supported her career, celebrated her wins, held her during her losses. When he proposed on a private beach in the Maldives, she said yes before he even finished the question. Their wedding was called the wedding of the decade. 600 guests. A dress that took 14 seamstresses 8 months to create. Flowers flown in from 3 different countries. And Marcus, standing at the altar, looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. I will love you in every season of your life, he whispered as he slid the ring onto her finger. In sickness and in health, in struggle and in success. You are my home now. She believed him. God help her. She believed every word. The pregnancy came 6 months after the wedding. They were overjoyed. Marcus talked about legacy, about building something that would outlast them both. He rubbed her growing belly every night and told their unborn daughter stories about the empire she would inherit. But something shifted in month 7. Small things at first. Comments about what she was eating, suggestions about exercise, concerns about how much weight she had gained. The doctor says this is normal, Marcus. The baby is healthy. I am healthy. I am just thinking about after, he said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. You will want to bounce back quickly. Everyone will be watching. Camille ignored the warning signs. She was too in love, too trusting, too convinced that the man who had promised to love her in every season would keep that promise. The delivery nearly killed her. 42 hours of labor. The baby's heart rate dropping dangerously low. An emergency cesarean section performed while Camille screamed and prayed and begged God to let her live long enough to hold her daughter. And then her heart stopped. For 30 seconds, Camille was dead. The monitors flatlined. The doctors shouted orders. Somewhere in that chaos, a tiny baby girl took her first breath, while her mother took what should have been her last. But Camille fought. Something in her refused to let go, and when the paddles shocked her heart back to life, the first thing she saw was a nurse holding her daughter. She is perfect, the nurse said through tears. And so are you. You are both fighters. Camille held baby Lily against her chest and wept. She had survived. They had both survived. Everything was going to be okay. She had no idea that surviving the delivery would be the easy part. The comments started 3 weeks after they brought Lily home. My mother is coming for lunch tomorrow. Maybe wear something that does not show your stomach so much. Camille looked down at herself. She was wearing a loose sundress, comfortable for breastfeeding. What is wrong with this? Nothing. I am just saying, first impressions matter, and you know how she is. Camille did know. Constance Hartwell was a woman who had raised 4 children and still fit into her wedding dress. A woman who believed that discipline was the answer to everything. A woman who had warned Marcus, loudly and often, about marrying outside their social circle. She changed into something darker, more structured, more forgiving. When Constance arrived, her eyes still traveled over Camille's body with obvious disappointment. How long has it been now? 3 weeks? You should be further along by now. Further along with what? The recovery, the bounce back. In my day, we did not coddle ourselves. Hot water and discipline. That was how we did it. I had 4 children and maintained myself perfectly. Look at my waist. Still small after all these years. Camille felt her cheeks burning. I am still healing. The cesarean was complicated. Complicated is a word people use when they want excuses. Constance smoothed her silk blouse. I told Marcus before the wedding, a wife must maintain herself. It is part of the job. Marcus said nothing. He sat there, sipping his coffee, letting his mother tear his wife apart like she was not even in the room. That night, Camille waited until Constance left before confronting him. You did not defend me, not once. Marcus looked at her with something close to irritation. Defend you from what? She was just speaking the truth. The truth? Marcus, I almost died giving birth to your daughter. My body is still recovering. Still recovering. He repeated the words like they tasted bad. It has been almost a month, Camille. How long are you planning to use that excuse? Excuse? She stared at him in disbelief. I have a scar across my stomach. I am breastfeeding every 2 hours. I have not slept more than 3 hours at a time since Lily was born. Lots of women have babies. They do not all let themselves go like this. Let myself go? Her voice cracked. Is that really what you think? I think you were a size 4 when I married you, and I think the gym is not just for decoration. He walked out of the room before she could respond, leaving her standing there with tears streaming down her face and a crying baby in the next room. That was the night Camille realized her husband was not the man she thought she married, but she told herself it would get better. Once she lost the weight, once she healed, once she proved she was still the woman he fell in love with, everything would go back to normal. She was wrong. Over the next several months, the criticism became relentless. Every day brought a new attack, a new comparison, a new reminder that she was failing. Look at this woman online, 3 months after twins, and she has a flat stomach. You gave birth to only 1 child. What happened to you? Camille would try to explain that social media was not real life, that filters and Photoshop and professional photographers created an illusion that no real woman could match. Marcus did not want to hear it. Excuses, that is all you have. Excuses. The comments about her body were constant, but they were not the worst part. The worst part was the way he pulled away from her, physically, emotionally, completely. One night, Camille reached for him in bed. She missed him, missed the closeness they used to have, missed feeling wanted. "Are you awake? I miss you." Marcus sighed. "I am right here, not like this." She moved closer. "I miss us." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said the words that would haunt her for years. "Honestly, it does not feel the same anymore." What does not feel the same? You know, after childbirth, things change, things stretch. I had stitches, Marcus, major surgery. The doctor said it would take time. Still, his voice was flat, clinical. "It is not the same. You are not the same." He turned away from her and fell asleep within minutes. Camille lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the most unlovable woman on earth. The food control started next. Marcus began monitoring everything she ate. He would comment on portion sizes, question her choices, make her feel guilty for being hungry. "Rice again? That is heavy. Try salad. I am breastfeeding. I need calories. So breastfeed with vegetables. You do not need all this." When she asked for grocery money, he cut the amount in half. "Why are you giving me less?" "So you will not spend it all on food. I am not funding weight gain." Funding weight gain, like she was a project he was investing in, like her body was a business expense that was not providing adequate return. The isolation crept in slowly. Camille stopped seeing friends because she was too ashamed of how she looked. She stopped calling her family because she did not want them to hear the defeat in her voice. Her world shrank to the estate, the baby, and the constant criticism of a husband who seemed to hate everything about her. Every time she looked in the mirror, she heard his voice, too soft, too big, too different. "Not the woman I married." She started skipping meals. Her hair began falling out in clumps. Her milk supply dropped because she was not eating enough to sustain it. She was destroying herself trying to become someone he would love again. And still, it was never enough. Now I need you to pause and really think about this for a moment. This woman almost died bringing his child into the world. Her heart literally stopped. She fought her way back from death for her daughter, and this is how her husband repays her sacrifice. If this makes your blood boil, drop a comment right now and tell me what you would have done in Camille's position. The breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Camille was standing in the kitchen preparing dinner when Marcus walked in with his phone in hand. "Come look at this." His voice had that edge to it, the one that meant another comparison was coming. She did not want to look, but she had learned that refusing only made things worse. On the screen was a fitness influencer posing in a bikini, her stomach impossibly flat, her body impossibly perfect. This woman had a baby 6 months ago. 6 months. And look at her. He shook his head in disgust. "You are at 7 months. What is your excuse?" Maybe she has help, nannies, personal trainers, a chef. So get those things. You have access to them. You just do not want to put in the work. Something inside Camille snapped. A small crack in the wall she had built around her heart. "I do not want to put in the work." She heard her voice rising, but could not stop it. "I am up every 2 hours with our daughter. I am recovering from major surgery. I am doing everything I can, while you compare me to strangers on the internet who probably have entire teams making them look that way." Marcus stared at her, like she had lost her mind. "Are you yelling at me?" "I am defending myself, since you clearly will not." The air between them turned cold. Marcus set down his phone and straightened his jacket. "This is exactly the problem. You have let yourself go physically, and now you are letting yourself go emotionally too. The woman I married would never speak to me this way. The woman you married almost died for you." The words came out broken, raw. "And you have not once acknowledged what I went through. Not once. What do you want? A medal? Women have been having babies for thousands of years. You are not special." He walked out, and Camille collapsed against the counter, sliding down to the floor. She wrapped her arms around her knees and sobbed. That was the night she called Zoe. Zoe had been her best friend since college. They had drifted apart after Camille married Marcus, mostly because Camille had been too embarrassed to admit that her fairy tale was turning into a nightmare. But that night, with nowhere else to turn, she dialed the number she still knew by heart. Camille. It was 9 o'clock at night, and Zoe's voice was immediately concerned. "What is wrong?" I do not know. Everything. Nothing. I just needed to hear a friendly voice. Zoe was on a plane by morning. When she arrived at the estate, she took one look at Camille and her face crumpled. What has he done to you? Camille tried to smile, tried to pretend everything was fine, but she was so tired of pretending. They sat on the patio while Lily napped, and Camille told her everything. The comments, the comparisons, the rejection in bed, the food control, the constant, relentless message that she was not enough. Zoe listened without interrupting. When Camille finished, her friend's eyes were blazing with anger. This is not motivation. This is not tough love. This is abuse, Camille. Emotional abuse. He says he is trying to help me. Help you? Zoe grabbed her hands. You almost died. Your heart stopped for 30 seconds on that operating table, and he is worried about your waist size. That is not help. That is cruelty. But maybe if I just tried harder. Harder? Camille, look at yourself. You are wasting away. Your hair is falling out. You flinch every time someone mentions food. This is not about your body. This is about a man who wants to control you by making you hate yourself. The words hit like a physical blow. Camille wanted to argue, to defend Marcus, to explain that he was not always like this, but she could not, because deep down, she knew Zoe was right. He makes me feel like I am not even human anymore, she whispered, like I am just this broken thing that used to be beautiful. You were never just beautiful. Zoe's voice was fierce. You were brilliant, ambitious, kind, funny. You had dreams that had nothing to do with any man. What happened to that woman? I do not know. Camille's voice broke. I cannot find her anymore. Zoe pulled her into a hug and held her while she cried. Then, we are going to find her together, because I promise you, she is still in there, and she is worth fighting for. Those words planted something in Camille's chest, a tiny seed, a spark of rebellion, of self-preservation, of hope. Seeds, even the smallest ones, have a way of growing into something that cannot be ignored. A few weeks later, Camille was walking through the city with Lily in her stroller, trying to clear her head. She had started taking these walks as a way to escape the estate, to breathe air that was not thick with criticism. She passed a boutique she had noticed before. It was called Nouveau, and the window display featured beautiful clothes on mannequins of all different sizes, not just tiny samples, real sizes, real bodies. Something about it made her stop. Before she could talk herself out of it, she pushed open the door. The interior was warm and welcoming. Soft music played. The clothes were arranged thoughtfully, designed to flatter rather than hide. And behind the counter stood a woman who radiated the kind of confidence Camille had forgotten existed. Welcome to Nouveau. I am Pearl, the owner. Camille blinked. Owner? Pearl smiled, her red lipstick perfect against her warm brown skin. Yes. Why? Do I not look like one? No, I did not mean. Camille fumbled, embarrassed. I am teasing you. Pearl's eyes were kind. You look like you were searching for something, and I am not talking about clothes. Something about this stranger's directness cracked Camille open. Within minutes, she was sitting in the back of the boutique, ugly crying while Pearl listened to the whole horrible story. When she finished, Pearl was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. I know what it feels like, to have someone try to make you small, to have someone convince you that their opinion of your body matters more than your own. I was married to a man like that once. What happened? I left. I rebuilt. I created this. Pearl gestured at the boutique around them, a sanctuary for women who need to remember their worth. Camille looked around at the space, at the photographs on the walls showing women of all sizes looking radiant and powerful. It seemed impossible, like a dream from another life. I do not know if I can do that. Rebuild. I do not even know who I am anymore. Pearl leaned forward. You do not have to know. You just have to start, one step at a time. She paused. I have a position open. Part-time, flexible hours. Would you be interested? Work? Here? Camille's mind raced. Marcus would never allow it. But then again, did she need his permission? I have not worked in years, she admitted. My husband said there was no need. I am not asking what your husband said. I am asking what you want. For the first time in months, someone was asking what Camille wanted, not what Marcus wanted. Not what Constance expected, what she wanted. Yes, she heard herself say, I would like that. If you are enjoying this story, take 2 seconds right now to hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and trust me, the karma is coming. You do not want to miss what happens next. When Camille told Marcus about the job, his reaction was exactly what she expected. A boutique? He laughed. Selling clothes? To who? Yourself. She ignored the jab. It is part-time. Just something to keep me busy. Playing shopgirl. Whatever keeps you distracted. Just do not embarrass the family name. She waited for the shame to wash over her like it always did. But this time, something was different. His words bounced off instead of sinking in. Maybe that was the first sign that she was changing. Working at Nouveau became Camille's lifeline. Pearl was more than an employer. She was a mentor, a healer, a mirror reflecting back the woman Camille had forgotten she could be. You are good with customers, Pearl observed one afternoon. You make them feel seen. Camille was helping a nervous new mother select an outfit for her return to work. The woman was struggling with her postpartum body, apologizing for how she looked, just like Camille used to do. I know what it feels like to be invisible, Camille replied. I do not want anyone else to feel that way. Pearl nodded slowly. That is a gift, you know, being able to connect with people like that. Do not underestimate it. Slowly, Camille began to see herself differently. She started eating properly again, not to lose weight, but to nourish the body that had performed miracles. She began walking, then taking dance classes, not to shrink herself, but to feel strong. One day, she caught her reflection in the boutique mirror and did not immediately hear Marcus's voice criticizing what she saw. Instead, she saw a woman who had survived, a woman who was fighting her way back. The stretch marks that Marcus despised became symbols of survival. The cesarean scar he found disgusting became evidence of the battle she had won. Her soft stomach became proof that she had carried life, had nurtured it, had brought it into the world through unimaginable difficulty. She was not broken. She was forged. Meanwhile, Marcus was becoming more distant. He came home later and later, always smelling of perfume that was not Camille's. His phone was constantly hidden, his conversations cut short when she entered the room. Camille noticed, but she no longer had the energy to care. She was too busy remembering who she was. What she did not know was that Marcus had been seeing someone else for months. Her name was Bianca, 24 years old, slim, polished, everything Marcus claimed to want. He had met her at a business conference and started an affair within weeks. I wish I had met you earlier, he told her one evening over champagne. My wife has really let herself go. Being with you is like fresh air. Bianca laughed. She liked the attention. She liked the expensive gifts. She did not particularly care that she was helping a man destroy his family. My wife got herself a little job, Marcus continued, pouring more champagne. Some boutique or something. At least it keeps her busy so she is not eating all day. That is good, Bianca purred. She needs the distraction. Exactly what I said. While Camille was rebuilding herself piece by piece, Marcus was building a house of cards. And houses of cards always fall. Months passed. Camille continued to grow stronger, more confident, more herself. Her work at Nouveau expanded. Pearl trusted her with more responsibility. Customers requested her specifically. At home, baby Lily was thriving, 8 months old now, full of giggles and curiosity. Camille poured all the love Marcus withheld into her daughter, determined that Lily would never doubt her worth the way Camille had doubted hers. One afternoon, Pearl called Camille into her office. I have been watching you, she said, and I see something special. Camille shifted uncomfortably. She was still not used to compliments. I am starting a coaching program, Pearl continued, for women recovering from what you have been through. Emotional abuse, body shaming, loss of self. I want you to help me run it. Me? But I am not qualified. You are more qualified than anyone with a certificate. Pearl leaned forward. Because you have lived it. You understand it from the inside. That is something no classroom can teach. Camille thought about all the women she had helped at the boutique. The ones who came in apologizing for their bodies. The ones who flinched when they looked in mirrors. The ones who reminded her so much of herself. Yes, she said, I want to do this. The moment she said those words, something clicked into place. A purpose, a direction, a reason to keep fighting. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she stops asking, "Am I enough for them?" and starts asking, "Are they enough for me?" Camille had finally reached that moment. The discovery happened on an ordinary Tuesday. Camille had finished her shift at Nouveau and decided to stop at a new cafe downtown for coffee. She was wearing a dress Pearl had designed specifically for her body, celebrating every curve instead of hiding them. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt beautiful. She heard Marcus's voice before she saw him, that distinctive laugh, the one he used when he was charming someone. She turned toward the sound, coffee cup frozen halfway to her lips, and there he was, sitting at a corner table, his arm draped around a young woman, their heads bent close together, intimate, obvious. As Camille watched, Marcus lifted the woman's hand and kissed it tenderly, the same gesture he had used when they were dating, the same gesture that used to make Camille feel treasured. Something strange happened in that moment. She expected devastation, heartbreak, betrayal. Instead, she felt clarity, sharp and brilliant as lightning. She set down her coffee and walked toward them. Marcus looked up, and the color drained from his face. "Camille, this is not, do not," she held up her hand, "do not insult me with excuses." The young woman looked confused, then horrified as understanding dawned. "You are his wife?" For now, Camille's voice was steady, calmer than she had expected. "You should know what you are getting into. He will worship you until you disappoint him, and eventually you will disappoint him, because his standards are impossible and his capacity for love is non-existent. Camille, you are embarrassing yourself." Marcus's voice was sharp, desperate. "No." She smiled, and it felt like freedom. "For the first time in years, I am actually not embarrassed. I am not embarrassed by my body. I am not embarrassed by my stretch marks. I am not embarrassed by my cesarean scar or the woman I have become. The only thing I am embarrassed about is how much time I wasted believing I was the problem." The cafe had gone quiet. Other customers were watching. Bianca looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Camille leaned down slightly, meeting Marcus's eyes. "You tried to make me small. You tried to make me hate myself. You almost succeeded. But you know what you actually did? You showed me exactly how strong I am. And for that, I suppose I should thank you." She straightened, took one last look at the man she had once loved more than anything, and walked out of the cafe. She did not look back. Can we just take a moment to appreciate what just happened? After months of being torn down, criticized, and made to feel worthless, Camille just looked her cheating husband in the eye and chose herself. If you are proud of her right now, let me know in the comments. What would you have said to Marcus in that moment? The divorce filing hit Marcus like a hurricane. He had expected Camille to come crawling back, apologizing for embarrassing him in public, begging for another chance. Instead, she served him papers and moved out of the estate with Lily within the week. "You cannot do this," he shouted over the phone. "Think about what you are throwing away." "I am not throwing anything away. I am taking out the trash." The proceedings were brutal. Marcus fought for everything, trying to paint Camille as unstable, unfit, ungrateful. But Camille had documentation, months of text messages showing his cruelty, bank records showing his financial control, witnesses who had seen how he treated her. And then the investigators found something nobody expected. During the standard financial discovery process, forensic accountants noticed irregularities in Marcus's business records, discrepancies that did not add up, money moving through shell companies, falsified reports to investors. The more they dug, the worse it got. Marcus Hartwell, the brilliant young billionaire, had built his empire on fraud. His business partners had been helping him cover it up for years. But the divorce investigation pulled back the curtain on everything. The morning the news broke, Camille was sitting in the boutique with Pearl, watching the headlines scroll across her phone. Billionaire Marcus Hartwell arrested for securities fraud. Hartwell empire collapses amid criminal investigation. Tech mogul's wife poised for massive settlement as whistleblower evidence emerges. "Did you know?" Pearl asked gently. "No. But I am not surprised. A man who could be so dishonest with his own wife would have no trouble lying to the world." The settlement was enormous. More money than Camille had ever imagined. But more important than the money was the custody ruling. Full custody of Lily to Camille, with supervised visitation only for Marcus after he completed his sentence. Because Marcus Hartwell, the man who had made Camille feel worthless for having a soft stomach, was going to federal prison for fraud. Constance Hartwell tried to contact Camille once after the arrest, a voicemail full of accusations and blame, insisting that Camille had somehow orchestrated her son's downfall. Camille deleted it without finishing. This is why I believe in karma. Sometimes it takes time, but it always finds its way. If you believe that people eventually get what they deserve, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure you are subscribed, because I have more stories like this coming. 1 year later, Camille stood before a different mirror in a different home. A beautiful brownstone she had purchased with her own money, decorated with warmth and color, filled with laughter and love. Her body was different now, not smaller or larger, but stronger. She had completed her certification in life coaching and opened her own practice in partnership with Pearl. Together, they had helped dozens of women rediscover their worth after emotional abuse. Lily, now 19 months old, toddled into the room and raised her arms to be held. "Mama pretty," the little girl said, touching Camille's face with chubby fingers. Camille smiled. Mama is learning to believe that. The doorbell rang. Camille's heart did a small flutter as she went to answer it. His name was Gabriel. He was a pediatrician who had been Lily's doctor before becoming something more. He looked at Camille with genuine admiration, with appreciation for her mind and her heart and her strength, not just her appearance. "You look beautiful," he said when she opened the door. "Thank you." And for the first time in years, she believed it. Their relationship was still new, still careful. Camille was learning to trust again, learning to accept love without conditions, learning that not all men were like Marcus. "How was your day?" Gabriel asked as he stepped inside. "Good. I had a session with a new client, a woman whose husband told her she was unlovable after she gained weight during pregnancy." Gabriel shook his head. "Some people do not deserve the partners they have. No, they do not. But some people learn that too late. And the husband? She is leaving him." Camille smiled. Tomorrow, she finally realized her worth was not his to determine. "Because of you, because of her, I just helped her see what was already there." Gabriel looked at her with something like wonder. "Do you know how remarkable you are?" Camille had spent years believing she was not remarkable at all, believing she was too big, too soft, too different from the woman Marcus wanted her to be. It had taken a long time to unlearn those lies. "I am learning," she said, "one day at a time." Marcus Hartwell served 4 years in federal prison. He emerged broken, his fortune gone, his reputation destroyed. The man who had criticized everything about Camille was now worth nothing. She heard through mutual acquaintances that he had tried to rebuild, started a consulting business, attempted to rehabilitate his image, but no one wanted to associate with a convicted felon whose cruelty had been documented in court records. Bianca had left him within weeks of the arrest, disappearing with some of the jewelry he had given her. His so-called friends vanished even faster. The man who had once made Camille feel like the loneliest woman on earth now knew what real loneliness felt like. Sometimes, late at night, Camille would think about him, not with anger or satisfaction or even pity, just a strange kind of detachment, like he was a character from a story she had read a long time ago. She had loved him once. She had built her whole identity around being his wife. She had nearly destroyed herself trying to be what he wanted, but that woman was gone now. In her place was someone stronger, wiser, more complete. The real karma, Camille understood, was not Marcus's downfall. It was her rising. Every woman she helped, every day she loved herself, every time she looked in the mirror and saw beauty instead of failure. That was the true victory. Some nights, when Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Camille would stand before the mirror and trace the scar across her stomach. It no longer represented pain or failure. It represented the night she had fought death and won, the night her daughter took her first breath, the night Camille became indestructible. She had been measured by a man who could not see her value, but she had discovered that her worth was never his to determine. It had always been hers, and that was the only measurement that mattered. This story is not just about karma or revenge. It is about something more important than that. It is about remembering who you are when someone has tried to make you forget. It is about choosing yourself when everyone else has abandoned you. It is about understanding that your body, your worth, your identity is not something anyone else gets to define. If you are watching this and you are in a relationship where someone makes you feel small, where someone criticizes your body, where someone makes you believe you are not enough, I need you to hear something. You are enough. Right now, exactly as you are. You do not need to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You do not need to earn love through weight loss or perfection or performance. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not who someone wishes you would become. And if the person who promised to love you cannot see your worth, that is their failure, not yours. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in Camille's position? Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after someone tried to break you down? And what advice would you give to someone going through something similar right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let us make this a community of people who lift each other up. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you never miss another video. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you want more stories like this, check out the video appearing on your screen right now. This is Mr. David Love Stories, reminding you that your worth is not determined by how others see you. It is determined by how you see yourself. Until next time,